pleased to have with us in this segment Leah Larson, who's the Vice President of Advancement of the United Way of Central Massachusetts. And in this year, with the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce celebrating its 150th anniversary, one of the important milestones in the Chamber's history, back when it was known as the Worcester Board of Trade, was helping establish the Worcester Community Chest.
That's right.
Which is now known as the United Way of Central Massachusetts,
Yep.
to help address issues in the community.
That's right.
And that tradition and partnership continues.
That is true, and you know, we're excited to be here today, and we love the work that we do across all the communities in Central Massachusetts that are within our footprint, and you know, we are here to talk about the Women's Initiative specifically and Power the Purse, but the relationship that with the Chamber continues to this day.
Yes,
with the United Way and your support and the support of your staff. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
Many of our 2,100 member
Yes.
businesses and organizations. I think it just maybe if Leah, if we've got a little time,
Yeah.
just to, if somebody is living under a rock or may not be completely familiar with the United Way,
Yeah.
maybe you could just give a little background of the United Way of Central Mass.
Yeah, so we are obviously a nonprofit organization, and our whole goal is to make sure that people have accesses to the resources that they need to live a strong and healthy life in our community. So we connect those people with those resources, whether that's housing resources, food resources, educational resources. And what we do is that we pool together people's donations and gifts to the United Way, and then we grant that money out to other nonprofits in our footprint so that they can deliver programs that are meaningful, educational, and so that people have and families have what they need in order to make their lives better.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, there's not, you know, if we were to go through the list of names of organizations doing really good work, whether it be other young people or communities with different challenges, United Way is there oftentimes in the background helping financially support that, bringing organizations together as a community, helping respond to crises that happen.
That's exactly right. And, you know, we look at ourselves as a collaborator. You know, we're working together and we have these community partners who are delivering these programs or services to the people who are in need in our communities where we live and work. But that wouldn't be possible without those who actually give to the United Way, who donate to the United Way and support the United Way, whether that's through monetary donations or through volunteerism and, you know, Day of Action, which is a massive one day across multiple different communities service projects, and we have like 1,200 volunteers on that one day in September. But everybody gives in their own philanthropic way. Time, talent, treasure, influence, those are all the things that we talk about at the United Way. And we basically try to collaborate in as many ways as possible to make our community better.
Right. But if people stopped giving to the United Way and United went away, there'd be a whole cross-section of organizations that would go away.
That's true.
And people, individuals, families in crisis, kind of across the board.
Yes, absolutely. It would definitely plunge, I think, more people into poverty, and they wouldn't have those pieces in place to help them and help support them.
And a vitally important safety net.
That's
and
right.
probably will become more important given events in Washington, D.C. recently.
Yes.
So United Way, great organization. But we are here, as you mentioned, to talk a little bit about the Women's Initiative of the United Way and its focus on adolescent girls. And let's share with our viewers a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Women's Initiative is a philanthropy group within the United Way. It started over 20 years ago with some women in the community who wanted to make a difference. They saw a problem in the domestic violence was happening. You could see it on the news, and it was happening more and more. And so they wanted to make a true difference in the lives of women and girls. And so they kind of partnered with the United Way, and they said, how can we work together? And so that's kind of how it started. And over 20 years later, it's still around. There's still some amazing women who are involved in it, who have really taken these girls-centered programs, girls-only programming, and made it kind of their life's work to make that positive difference, that positive influence through multiple avenues: mentoring, education, financial literacy. Those are all things that the Women's Initiative tries to give to young girls, specifically ages 9 to 15, or in grades 4 through 8th. So,
and probably, more important now than ever. I mean, when this was started 20 years ago, we did not have this explosion of social media and algorithms which are targeted on the vulnerabilities of young women, girls. And this is about kind of creating a space where they're comfortable, supported, can have conversations, and really kind of get some of that exposure that's really critical to decision making, right, and safety.
Yeah, exactly. So the programs that are funded, they're creating safe spaces for girls to be able to build confidence, gain skills around conflict resolution, become educated in multiple different areas, and then also some of the programs do unique things. So like Mass Audubon runs a program in partnership with Girls Inc., where they're actually bringing the girls out into nature so that they're learning about the environment around them. And Just Us Girls is for girls with developmental disabilities. So there are unique programs that the Women's Initiative does fund, but all of them are vital to girls in our community.
Right.
And then, one of the things that I think the Women's Initiative is extremely proud of is that last year they granted out $250,000 to 11 different programs they funded, and that is going to happen again this coming school year. So they're definitely making the investments in the community, and in addition to that $250,000, they also run a Dollar Scholar program that is completely volunteer-led. There's a financial literacy committee that puts the curriculum together, and then they reach out to local middle schools, mostly 7th and 8th grade girls. Sometimes we get 6th graders, but then they learn the tools about financial literacy. So, checking, credit, like all the things that you don't think about when you're in 7th and 8th grade, but are tools to help you when you become an adult. You get your first job, you're thinking about going to college or a trade school or whatever that looks like. How do you plan for those things while still, in some cases, trying to support your family or help your family? And so those are kind of those conversations that are had, and that wouldn't be possible without the more than 200 women mentors who volunteer their time every year.
Right, and so there's that volunteer piece, but also, as I understand it, for the Women's Initiative, there is some fundraising that goes on specifically to support these programs and, where possible, expand them.
That's exactly right. So one of the events that they have coming up is their signature Power the Purse event, which is a purse auction, and there are purses that range from $20, $30 all the way up into the hundreds of dollars, $600, $700 purses, but all that money does go towards girls-only programming. And so we're really excited to have the Hanover Insurance Group host that event for us again this year. It's a great partnership that we have with them, and we're really fortunate to have their support.
Right. The Hanover Insurance Group, a major employer here in Central Massachusetts, and with many of their employees giving back in a variety of ways, and volunteering and supporting, but also in a philanthropic way, and the power of their example too.
Exactly.
So are all those purses donated?
They are all donated. We collect purse donations from mid-April through late May, and so people are able to donate purses, gift certificates. We try to pair them with to make the package a little bit more enticing. This year our honorary chairs are 2 local female authors, so it's kind of a unique theme, and we actually have books by multiple female authors that will be paired with the purses this year. And our 2 honorees this year are Diane Langford James and then Wendy O'Leary. So we wanted to honor female authors because the way in which they storytell, how they tell their story, and who they inspire through their words, and that's something that's unique, but also really meaningful.
Got it, got it. So, Leah, if people want to learn more
Yeah.
about the United Way generally, or specifically the Women's Initiative, how can they get more information?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, UnitedWayCM for centralmass.org, and you can find more information about the Women's Initiative there. But also, I would suggest following on social media is probably where like the most up-to-date things are, obviously in the world of social
Yes,
media, which
yeah.
we just talked
Right,
about.
right.
Everything's kind of at your fingertips, and social media for Women's Initiative is Women's Initiative CM, all one word.
These days, you've got your hands full in life. That's why we help you bank simply and securely with tools like Face ID and Touch ID. It's why we make it easy to make purchases on the go and get cash back while you're at it. Why we help you quickly deposit checks wherever you are. And it's why we lend a hand with sending and receiving money right from your phone. So even when you're on the move, you can manage your finances. Bank Hometown. Unlock your potential.